Now it's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Let's begin with this day newspaper. There we have 24 hours after Mbah joined APC, Diri abandons the PDP, keeps mum on next move. Cardoso woos investors as FX turnover hits $8.6 billion, anticipates current account surplus to exceed $20 billion. Inflation declines further 18.02% amid moderation in food, energy prices, FX stability. The Guardian, Obi Atiku's 2027 bids wobble as defections, internal strife rock LP, PDP. Reps probe $35 million brass modular refinery project. And Wike mocks defectors as Diri downs PDP with 21 Bayelsa lawmakers. The Punch, Hurricane Tinubu, says this headline. Mass defections ignite one-party state fairs. Lagos rejects National Assembly's Central Gaming Bill for a reign over mother of Osun LG chair. Moving on to Daily Sun, PDP loses another governor as Diri quits to join APC. Defection won't stop Nigerians from voting candidates of their choice, Obi. World Bank warns of looming job crisis, pushes agribusiness as solution. Daily Independent, I've been vindicated over inflation of cost, Atiku. Asks FG to publish contractual details, suspend payments. Tinubu urged to vet names submitted for presidential pardon. Experts urge action to make agric Nigeria's growth driver. The Leadership, inflation dropped to 18.2% and reactions as two People's Democratic Party governors defect within 48 hours. I can change Nigeria's situation in 4 years, says Mr. Peter Obi. And to the Vanguard newspaper, again on politics, Obi Dixon ADC rail against spate of defections to APC. And we have Governor Rada of Katsina State, we won't negotiate with bandits. Nigeria risks chaos over rising violence. Sultan Muslim leaders won. New Telegraph. Reps ordered Just Disco to remit 72 billion naira to FG within 60 days. It also has that story on PDP Governor Dwoye Diri dumping the party. IMF sees Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio fall to 36.4% by 2025. Daily trust finally for the local papers. Fuel price climbs to 1,000 as queues resurface. Nigeria loses bid to host Commonwealth Games, and Odinga's death creates vacuum in Kenya's opposition. There's also court quashes suspension of political gatherings. Moving on to the international headlines right away. There we have the Daily Sun. The Sun newspaper, they could have saved Liam. Daily Graphic, rice sector can swell by 2,600%. That's Ghana trying to unlock the agricultural sector. Financial Times, financiers sound alarm on standards after collapses expose riskier lending. Bank backed by Trump-friendly tech billionaires gets watchdogs green light. The I newspaper, leaked memo reveals Labour plan to slash affordable homes target. Daily Mail, Chinese stole secrets from number 10 for 10 years. And the Citizen newspaper, online gambling snares youth. We have that picture with splitting headache on the front page. The Daily Star, Price breaks silence, Katie names TV star rapist. And the Independent revealed terrible revenge of Taliban that shames Britain. And finally, Daily Express, Kemi, it stings of a China cover-up by PM. Let's return to this day newspaper. We'll begin with the story 24 hours after Mbah joined APC. Diri abandons PDP, keeps mom on next move. That story also features in the Vanguard newspaper, where it has the caption, Bayelsa Governor Diri, Speaker, other lawmakers quit PDP. Obi Dixon ADC railed against spate of defections to APC. This is coming a day after Mr. Peter Mbah of Enugu State, we are aware, moved to the All Progressives Congress. Governor Diri has not officially moved to the APC. Indications are that he may. For now, he only resigned from his party, the PDP. After he resigned, we had Senator Dixon, who is a former governor of the state, taking a swipe at him, accusing him of running away from the mess that he had created. And Dixon also calling for a vibrant multi-party democracy. So now let's unpack this, Benga. There's a lot happening in Bayelsa State. Let's start with this reaction from Siriaki Dixon. We know that, you can understand what he's saying against the background of the history between both men. That's Dixon and Diri. Dixon is the political godfather of Diri. He brought him into the governorship race, he mentored him, he supported him heavily, and he won the elections. So there hasn't been good relations between both men. They've tried to patch it up, but it's there. Now his political godson has moved to, he has resigned from the party. 3 members are not. The deputy governor also is not decamping. He's still in a PDP. So that tells you that there's a lot going on there. Also, he is a second-term governor. So you might wonder, why is he leaving the party? There's also the internal or local politics within the APC in Bayelsa. First of all, you have the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil. That's Heineken Lokbobiri, who sees himself as the leader of the APC. That much he has said, that if a party does not have a governor in a state, then the serving minister becomes the leader. Then that's not what, the other big wig within the APC in that state, that's Temipre Silva, who was also a former governor and was also Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil at some point. He doesn't want to hear that he's equally a big fish, according to him, within the APC. So there's that supremacy battle happening within the APC. That's what Governor Diri is going to meet when he goes there, or when he moves to APC, if he does. So there is that sense that he will have to align with somebody if he does. And most probably it will be Heineken Lokbobiri. However, this gives us a sense that for Bayelsa State, it's not going to be a smooth running of affairs for the APC if eventually Diri moves over to that party.
Okay, it looks like a game of conjectures and speculations here.
It's not speculations.
It's
not speculations.
The modus ponens.
This is what is happening on ground in the state.
To decipher what's happening now. Most likely he's moving to the APC, but he's yet to announce it. So I think there is a need for a restraint, a little of a restraint there. But it tells us about the texture, the color of the democracy that we are practicing. It shows that democracy is really in crisis, and we are politically back to a one-party state because the haven't secured an absolute majority in the National Assembly. Now everything is just going to be a rubber stamp, and that leaves a deep concern for us. Governor Diri is yet to come out to say clearly why is defecting from the PDP. But he said as much as he has the responsibility to secure a mandate that would secure the interest of his people as the governor. Coming from a second-term governor, that shows that that is not likely to be a race for political survival. So it's still like a resounding board for the internal wranglings of the PDP, which the PDP is yet to really come together to face. It's like the party has been ostriching itself against the telltale signs, against the writing of the wall, turning its back on the warning signs. The issue that happened in the build-up to the 2023 election was a major crack to all this spiraling and ripple effects that we are seeing, that major leaders have now had to pitch their tent and look for a certain future that will be beneficial to themselves. And that is the denial of an equitable zoning system. Now, Governor Wike has also presented a 6-point agenda that most of it is arguably tied to the law. And the party is ignoring all this. And this is coming, 2 governors defecting away from the PDP in less than a month to the elective national convention. That's the biggest forum, that's the biggest platform for decision making in any party. The national convention is the highest, followed by the NEC. So this leaves a very disturbing trend, and it shows the state of disarray. Just yesterday, we saw, day before yesterday, we saw the legal advisor and the national chairman in an open tussle in the court over who has the power to appoint, to engage a legal counsel for the party. All this does not show a good sign at all for a party that wants to be in good stead to wrest power from an APC led by, you and I agree, a very skillful politician like President Tinubu, President Bola Tinubu.
He is indeed very skillful. He understands Nigerian politics. He understands Nigerians. And he knows what he's doing, whether you like it or not. And, you know, to your point on Diri talking about the APC, one of his supporters had said that one of the reasons that they are going to make a change is that they need to align with the national or with the center. I mean, that's an excuse that is being given from anybody that is defecting. You can be in your party and align with the national, and you don't have to agree on everything. That's why there is that need to have, you know, opposition, so that we don't have a government that is running amok. But let's move to the next story in this day. That's on the economy. We have here inflation declines further 18.0.2% amid moderation in food, energy prices, FX stability. That story also features in New Telegraph. Nigeria's inflation rate drops to 18%, lowest since 2022. And in leadership, there's a bit more explanation. Inflation dropped to 18.2% on improved harvest, forex stability, according to experts. This data was provided by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS. So it's a marginal drop, though. Inflation was 20.12% in August. So as the article notes, this was mainly due to lower prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages, improved agri output as well due to the harvest. There's exchange rate stability and microeconomic policy improvements are some of the drivers of this new data. So from what we know, the president and his team have a target of 15% inflation rate. We're not there yet. This slight easing may improve purchasing power to some degree, as well as lower interest rate pressure. Overall, the double digits will continue to undermine stability for a while, in addition to weakening public trust. So,
this has been the same consistent narrative in about 6 months till now. We've been having that snail speed, and people have been talking about stability, coming from the federal government reforms, achieving this level of macroeconomic stability. But when it comes to the real-time microeconomic realities, it's always a huge yawning gap. You would agree with me that the major theater of this economic challenge is the food theater, is the food inflation, which of course we also had recorded a marginal increase from 21% to 16%, also very marginal. But I think that rather than achieving stability, it's time for us to shift our attention to growth, because when you look at the bigger indications in index, and that's the debt to revenue ratio, you would agree with me that there is still a huge yawning gap, which is about 75%. That also shows that there is a financial stress on the economy, and you would agree with me that we are managing a fragile economy. And when we also look at, the IMF also released a report on the debt to GDP ratio now, which is 36%. That's a drop from 39% to 36%. But nevertheless, it still does not change the status quo of the economy. We would like to see a reduction in food importation and increase in local productivity.
All right. a lot to chew on for the government. Okay, there's one more story there. Cardoso woos investors as FX turnover hits $8.6 billion. So doing well on that front in order to attract foreign investors into the country. But we also have another story in Daily Sun. There, defections won't stop Nigerians from voting candidates of their choice. This is Mr. Peter Obi speaking. In another story, he was quoted as saying that nobody can capture the Southeast with defection. Mr. Peter Obi was approached by reporters on several issues, including the decampment of Enugu State Governor, Mr. Peter Mbah, while Mbah may have taken this choice based on his political views and calculations. That's Peter Obi speaking. He also said that defections will not amount to a capture because we're not under a military rule. I mean, fair point by Mr. Obi. Lead by example. He's essentially saying, lead by example, deliver results, and you win the hearts and minds of people. That's a normal template in a sane society. In Nigeria, that may not necessarily be the case, particularly if and when the votes do not count, or when voters turn away from the polls because they believe there's no point, if the system is rigged from the beginning. So, I mean, recall when President Obasanjo was in power, during his first term, he ran and won on PDP platform. Most of the states from the Southwest were mainly AD, Alliance for Democracy. But during his second term, they were compelled to move over to the PDP, except Lagos, which resisted. So what we see is a replay of what happened in the past, and it's become a template in Nigeria.
Yeah, when we try to assess what Peter Obi is saying, I think it's the last grip, and something that shows one of the very last option in a democracy for an opposition party to still clinch power. But the reality is like it's indicated a frail hope, because a political party still remains a fundamental vehicle of political mobilization.
President Muhammad Buhari did that against a sitting president, Goodluck Jonathan.
Yes,
he succeeded.
But he had a formidable party.
Yes.
And also most of the members of the ruling party, PDP then, had defected to the APC to form a legacy structure that led to the formation of the All Progressive Congress. So it remains to be seen how Peter Obi would be able to galvanize and mobilize support without a strong political platform like a political party. So all this, we cannot wish away the influence of political party, and it also raises the question of what is the level of the voter enlightenment, the voter education that we have in the country, because some people even vote, they don't even know the name of the candidates that they are voting for, but they know the party.
Well, I mean, I think he was also talking about, the governors in the Southeast, for instance, or he was insinuating into that. We now have 3 APC governors. That's Enugu State, there was Imo State, and Ebonyi State. So what, will that decampment, change the political equation in the Southeast? Like we know, traditionally, APC is not really on ground in the Southeast. However, when you don't have free and fair elections, it's also possible that the votes are manipulated. So at the end of the day, APC may carry the day. But in terms of the weight of these governors, Mr. Hope Uzodinma, who is the governor of Imo State, regionally, he is not he's a lightweight in the Southeast, and he's quite an unpopular governor. And then you go to the man in Ebonyi State, Mr. Nwifuru Francis, who was installed by the former governor and current minister, Mr. David Umahi. He's also a lightweight. Regionally, he can pull any political weight. But the political dynamics are changing. And then there's what happened in Rivers State, and then there's Peter Mbah now, who until he became governor was not really known. He's doing quite well in his state. Now he has moved to APC. Like I said, they hold the powers of their parties. And if elections are free and fair, it might be a little bit different, but we don't know what's going to happen. So we will be watching closely. Let's see another story in Daily Independent, and this goes to security for now. High Chief Government Ekemu Polo Akatompolo donates 10 billion to support the Delta State Security Trust Fund. Tompolo is the chairman of Tantita Security Services. It's astonishing how a former militant became a billionaire through security contracts. And we'll pair that with the other story on the Akaba process. Here, the president is in Rome to attend that peace process. We have that photo on page 6 of Daily Independent and also on the front page of The Guardian. So the Akaba process was initiated by King Abdullah II in 2015. And it's a platform for cooperation and dialogue on terrorism and violent extremism, as well as cross-border regional threats. President Bola Tinubu's presence there was necessary because, we have ongoing struggle against violent extremism and terrorism. There's also that case on banditry. So it offers Nigeria a platform to share intelligence with other people, access counter-terrorism training, and build diplomatic and military partnerships. So Nigeria's presence aligns with this vision of being a leading player in regional security and stabilization across West Africa. However, we need to secure our borders first before we play a leading role in West Africa, don't we?
Yeah, that reminds me of what the governor of Zamfara State said about barely a month ago, when he said that if he's given if he's provided with a state police structure, he would fix insecurity in the state within 24 or I think within 48 hours. Yes, I think I would rather go with him because it borders so much on how we tell our story, our perception about our own problem. And if you look at what the producer did this morning, from the Rome story, he brought in that, that's talking about producer Lekon Agbelemoshi, he brought in that clamor for the need to find a homegrown solution to the insecurity challenge, the insecurity threat in the country. And I want to caution that we cannot import the Rome model to come and fix Nigeria's problem. We have a very peculiar problem, and I doubt it if any of these Roman, partners would be able to address our problem with that full-scale understanding.
That's not the point, though. Yes. The point is that violent extremism and terrorism is now transnational. It's transnational. It crosses
and
borders.
If you look at what they are discussing on is the problem of the Sahel, because that looks like the headquarters, the powerhouse of insecurity in Africa, because is that location between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, which traverses about 9 countries. So I think that rather than all this seeking that kind of alliance, that we could seek for fun, but we need to have a proper understanding of what our problem is.
No, you cannot do it alone, because like you said, what is happening in Libya is leading people to come down to West Africa. So all the countries involved in the whole of the Sahel, you have to have some kind of partnership, some kind of sharing of intelligence.
With the West? Yes, I'm not saying that we cannot share intelligence with the West, but I think we need to have...
Even within Africa, we're also talking within Africa.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes.
That these countries along the Sahel need to come together to address their own problems, rather than really having this over reliance on the West. Going to Rome for that is my own problem.
No, it's just a location. It does not mean that they're relying on the West, but you also need, this is international. Terrorism is international because it's also happening in the Middle East. You know that.
I understand.
So there is affiliation of terrorists from the Middle East, with those in Africa. So anyway, we have to rest that because we have the international papers to deal with. The passing of Raila Odinga, Kenyan politician, he passed at the age of 80. I think we have some footages on that. He had faced several setbacks. He ran for a presidency and he never got it, but he was instrumental to multi-party politics in Kenya, and he had a lot of supporters. and he will be missed not only by his supporters, but by the contributions that he made in Kenya.
Yeah, William Ruto graciously described him as a giant of democracy in Kenya, because there's no way you can talk about Kenya's contemporary history without finding Raila Odinga's name being etched boldly in the historical trajectory and tapestry of that country. He was a leading opposition leader. He ran for the highest seat in the land for 5 times. He failed. But nevertheless, he was very consistent and very vehement in his conviction. You remember that it also shows, he's also a symbol of democracy survival in the state. You remember that 2007 extremely violent election. That was the most violent election recorded in Africa. And they were able to come together. And in the last election that was held, he accepted the Supreme Court judgment and abided by it. And after which he ran for the chairmanship of the African Union, which he also lost.
Yes.
But his consistency and his voice for the opposition in Kenya, which would have slipped into a one-party state now, is very, very instructive and very inspiring for someone like former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
Let's quickly look at Daily Mail. Chinese stole secrets from Number 10 for years. They were allowed to buy a computer that controlled a data hub used by government departments to exchange information, including highly classified projects. Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, is under pressure for how this case has gone. And finally, the Daily Telegraph. The peacemaker President Donald Trump plans Ukraine's victory fund to be bankrolled by tariffs. These tariffs to be slammed, or that have been slammed on China, will be used to finance weapons for Ukraine. He has floated this plan to Europe, and it's been discussed. Recall that former President Biden was, bankrolling the Ukraine war partly. The U.S. was. So Trump believes that this war should end, that American money should not be used to continue to fund a war. Very quick comment on that.
Yeah, I think Trump has been very consistent in conserving America's interest. And when it comes to funding, you remember that just recently, a few months ago, he stopped the aid cuts to many of these humanitarian structures around the world. And so that's been consistent with Trump's policy, putting America's first, because it realizes that America has overstretched itself in its international expenditure, and it's trying to find a way to rev up the revenue posture for the United States of America.
All right, that's all we can take on the paper review this morning. Thank you, Benga. We argued a bit, but it was good. All right.